Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Voices for Change 2.0, the mental health podcast that's changing the discussion one voice at a time, featuring guests that will help end the stigma and keep talking mental health. And now, here are your hosts, Rebecca and Joe Lombardo.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Voices for Change 2.0.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to do my best Howard Cosell here and say, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, from the frozen tundra that is Detroit, Michigan. Wow, I used to do that a lot better when I was younger.
Yeah, I've never heard you do that, and I really don't want to hear you do it again.
I promise you I'll never try and sound like Howard Cosell ever again. Wow.
That was brutal, babe. Brutal.
Yeah, I am sorry. I am sorry for that. But yeah, it's snowing. And
yeah,
it snowed
it's really snowing.
Yesterday and the day before.
It's very pretty.
Yes.
I just don't want to do anything.
Yeah, no, I like looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go out in it, but it's vastly pretty.
Yeah, this is the kind of snow that I wish we would have had on Christmas.
Yep, it's almost as pretty as you.
Oh, thanks, honey.
Sorry, I'm just cheesy.
Yeah, you are. You're the king of cheese.
I am the king of cheese, and that's Gouda for everybody.
God, it's time for you to go back to bed.
I think you are correct. I think
you are just rough today.
I am. It's been a rough week. I got to tell you guys something though. I have stumbled across a new product that is making me happy beyond words. So a couple years ago, Pepsi came out with that Pepsi Zero Sugar. Okay, and for years I've drank Diet Pop because, now because of the whole diabetes thing, but before just because I didn't like the taste. Whenever I drank regular pop, I could taste the corn syrup in it, believe it or not, and I hated the taste and hated the feeling of it. So I would drink Diet Pop and put up with the foibles of Diet Pop just so I didn't get that corn syrup. So, like I was saying, Pepsi comes out with Pepsi Zero Sugar, and I try it, and I'm like, oh my God, this tastes like Pepsi, which I used to drink in my younger days. So now they've come out with Mountain Dew Zero Sugar, and I got to tell you guys, pretty good. I'm digging on it. It tastes like Mountain Dew. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what kind of
magic.
Yeah, what kind of magic deal they made with the forces of good or the forces of evil, but I'm all in. I'm looking at a bottle of it right now. So,
did we get the opportunity to mention that we finally saw your movie?
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
we finally saw Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
I cried my eyes out.
Yep.
Just as a spoiler for anybody that hasn't seen it yet.
Yep.
I bawled in the theater.
And I loved it. I know ever since it came out, there have been mixed reviews on it, and I don't understand the hate from the people that didn't like it. But to each their own. There's going to be people that are never happy about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually last weekend on Twitter was looking at some of the stuff that some of the fandom have been posting, and it's ridiculous, nitpicky stuff. And I'm like, come on, man, get over it. It's a movie. It's a story. And just enjoy it, The
last one.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do something else down the line. While I know it's the last in the Skywalker saga, it's definitely not going to be the last Star Wars movie by any stretch.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I like how it ended. And there are people that detracted from things. I kind of wish we'd seen the Ben Solo character take. I wish we'd seen this from him in the other two movies a little bit more.
Yeah. Because I couldn't stand him.
Yeah.
I could not stand that guy, and he grew on me a little bit when I saw this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's still a weird dude, but.
But he is funny. I'll give him that. I've seen some of the clips and stuff of him from like on Saturday Night Live that he was on recently, and he's actually surprisingly entertaining dude. But
he was good at that role.
Yeah.
I guess I just needed him to take a face turn.
Oh, he did that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a wrestling term for those who don't know. So
he was a heel.
He was
now
a heel.
Now
he's a face. Now you know a wrestling term. That said, I'm going to say one last thing, and then we're going to get on to our guest.
Okay.
Today at apparently 2:00, and I don't know who's broadcasting it, but apparently the first game for Vince McMahon's XFL premieres today.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We need to find out where that's playing.
Yeah.
Wonder if you can get it on the WWE network.
I don't know where they're having it. We'll have to look for it, but that's what I heard. So, those of you like us that were bummed out about football being over last weekend because of the Super Bowl.
Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. Fear not. Something football-like will be on the TV today. So.
All right.
That's it. The end. That's all I got.
Okay. We've got to move on to our guest because we blabbed enough.
We did blab enough. We may have blabbed too much.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Yeah.
But please, you wrote it this time. I'm going to let you say it.
Okay. So our guest today is a survivor of something that is severely under-discussed, at least in my opinion. And considering my gender, that's my opinion. Testicular cancer. He's shining a light on this particular disease and its impact on men's mental health with courage and humor. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Justin Birckbichler.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey. He's absolutely just, I don't know where this is all coming from today, so we might just have to do the show without him.
I'm on 10 for some reason. I don't know why. So, I'm still not even halfway through my first one, so I think that speaks to the potency right there. So,
how are you, Justin?
I'm doing pretty well. It's kind of a chilly morning here in Virginia, but overall, it's a nice sunny morning.
Well, that's good.
That's good.
You guys don't get snow as much as us more northern states, do you?
No, but when we do get snow, the entire state pretty much shuts down because it comes as a surprise to them every year that snow comes from the sky, and so they'll declare states of emergency. I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I'm used to snow, but they'll have a quarter inch on the ground. They'll be like, all highways are shut down. Stay indoors, people.
Oh, jeez. I'm pretty sure that would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
Knowing. I mean, yeah, you got to know how to drive in this stuff, obviously. And, I mean, if they don't know about, brining the roads or putting salt down or something, then, yeah, I can see them flipping out. But still.
You'd think after all this time they would have
put on some big boy pants?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
you'd think so.
Oh. Yeah, you would think so. So, you're saying it's kind of chilly there this morning. What was it, like 50?
I think it's like low 40s, but that's probably like a heat wave to you guys.
Yeah, that's jeans.
Balmy.
That's shorts and t-shirt weather there, pal. So yeah, that's nothing. That's walking around with a light shawl on. Yeah, so
a light wrap.
Yeah, a light wrap. Ooh, it's breezy. But anyway, if you don't have any questions for us, we're going to commence the grilling you.
All right, bring it on.
Okay, that sounds good. So this first question, we like to ask it of everybody that we talk to on the show. It's kind of become our standard first question. But I will say that in your case, it may end up actually tying into
kind of backwards.
What?
Because I think we're gonna start in a point that's not the starting point. I think it's going to go backwards, so we'll just have to see how it works.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying, is that it might tie into the second question that we have.
Right.
Okay. So that said, I'll just ask the first question. I was going to ask them both at the same time, but that would be confusing. So where did your mental health journey begin?
So this is going to be like a plot twist, that my mental health journey actually began back in high school, prior to any of the cancer stuff. It started all the way back in high school when I guess it was like my sophomore year of high school. I was about 15 or 16, and I realized that I just wasn't feeling myself anymore, but I just thought it was like typical teenage angst. But then it just got worse and worse from there.
Okay. Well, that is not what I was expecting, but I get it.
Yeah.
And, it's not that uncommon from really just about everybody
all
else
the
that we've
people that we've
talked to.
Yeah. There's been a few folks that have said that they knew when they were like 9 or 10 that there was something going on, but the bulk of the people that we talk to, and even from my own experience, it tends to come, 15, 16, all the way maybe up into your early 20s.
Yeah.
Just that general area. That's where people usually find the most difficulty.
I contend that the more we have that discussion, sorry, I can't talk, and the more that it ends up going that same way, I'm convinced that it ties into puberty.
Mm-hmm.
I really am. I think that with all the hormonal changes that you go through, you're growing hair in weird places, your voice gets deeper. I'm just talking about the guys, but all the stuff you women go through that I'm not going to elaborate on.
Yeah, really.
But I think it's tied into that. I think that there's such a radical change to your body. You could almost, if you're biblical, you could almost liken it to when Adam and Eve take the first bite out of the apple, and then their eyes are opened and they realize they're naked and all that stuff.
And it hits them. They don't have any clothes on.
Yeah, and it just, but think about it from that kind of point of view. It's like, you hit puberty and all of a sudden, you're becoming more like an adult and you're starting to realize things that you didn't really think about when you were a kid and, all that type of thing. And so, yeah, I think, once you start getting that whole sense of yourself in the world, it can be overwhelming and stuff.
So what, Justin, what age were you given the cancer diagnosis, and you're cancer free now, correct?
Yeah, I can't say that I'm cancer free for another 2 years or so. I'm still tracked pretty closely, but I've been in remission for almost 3 years now. So I was diagnosed when I was 25 years old. So it was about 10 years after my initial experience with some mental health issues. But it was interesting because the cancer diagnosis came so abruptly, from like determining that there was something wrong with my testicles to having surgery was a total of 20 days. So everything moved so quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be just
jarring.
Yeah, overwhelming. How did that? I know this is kind of a silly question almost, but what kind of impact did it have on your mental health, knowing that you were already, struggling with stuff prior to?
I thought it was in a pretty good place mental health wise. Prior to cancer, my really, really dark days in high school pretty much wrapped up before I graduated high school and then throughout college and the first couple of years of being a real adult, or I'm still working on being a real adult, I guess, at this point in my life. Someday I'll get there. But I was always kind of vigilant about my mental health, but never thought I had too many issues. And even throughout the whole experience going through surgeries and chemo and everything, I really didn't think it had a huge impact on my mental health. Or I guess more accurately, I refused to really allow myself to realize what an impact it was having on my mental health. I was just so focused on my physical health at the time and not, managing all the symptoms from either the cancer or the chemo or a combination of both, because that's a super fun cocktail of stuff they shoot into you for a couple of months. But it wasn't until probably almost a year after I finished chemo that I finally admitted that I was having some mental health struggles. I had, looking back at my blog, it's around the 6-month mark after finishing chemo, because I kind of chronicled my whole journey online, and going back and rereading some of the pieces, that there's definitely a shift in tone that I didn't even realize at the time until I go back and look at it, where it got from kind of like a hopeful, more optimistic, upbeat spirit to like, yeah, I survived cancer, but when do I actually deal with this issue now?
Yeah, it's kind of a, well, what now kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we're happy that you're in remission, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Cancer's had a negative impact on our lives.
A big impact on our lives.
Yeah. Buck's mom had it. My dad had it. It's nefarious. It's insidious. It stinks and I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's so pervasive. Like, you'd be harder pressed to try to find someone who hasn't had some sort of either personal or close acquaintance have something with cancer, but such a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. What prompted you to come forward and tell your story?
So when I was first diagnosed, like I said, I was 25 years old, and I was the typical millennial where I wanted to find all my answers instantly on the internet, and I couldn't really find anything about, like, the doctor told me, or my urologist told me that I was going to need chemo, but he wasn't oncologist, so it was going to be a couple days until I could get into an oncologist's office for them to really tell me about it. And so in those intervening days, I wanted to figure out what I was going to be going through. And so I searched, and there wasn't a real comprehensive resource. There were some blog posts here and there written from the perspective of the testicular cancer patient, but nothing comprehensive from, going through finding a lump to being in remission. So I had been kind of, to help process everything, I had been kind of writing up my story from finding the lump up until pretty much the day that they told me that the cancer had spread and I'd need further treatment. So I decided, I was like, rather than, I'm sure I'm not the only, well, I know for a fact that I'm not the only guy who's ever going to be diagnosed with testicular cancer, but I'm certainly not going to be the only guy who's diagnosed with testicular cancer, and also wants to know what to expect as they're going to be going through this journey, if you will, for the next couple of weeks and months. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me to put it out there. And I actually spent more time coming up with, like, the name of the website than, like, making a conscious decision, like, hey, should I put this out there? And I've never really looked back from there.
Well, it's good that you took that step and put this information out there. And I've actually looked at the website, and it's great. It's comprehensive. It tackles it with earnestness and humor, and which, facing a diagnosis like cancer, it's just really hard trying to put any humor into the situation, but, I guess there's two ways to look at it. You either look at it as, well, I'm going to get through this however positively as possible, or, you look at it as your deathbed, and that's a really hard pill to swallow when
for sure
you come across that. But so it's good that you tackled it head on and didn't let it defeat you, and decided to put information out there for everybody else. And I mentioned at the top of the show that this particular type of cancer is severely under-discussed. And I mean, the last time I honestly heard anything about it in the media was when Tom Green had it, and that was
a long time ago.
A long time ago, yeah. I'm sure you're probably going, who the hell is Tom Green?
And it's scary because either you have options on the internet where it's something like what you've done with your website, or you go to the complete opposite, excuse me, and you've got like WebMD, which is just terrifying and horrific.
Yeah, you stub your toe, we're going to scare the hell out of you.
Yeah.
So
it's good to have.
Oh yeah, I can totally sympathize on the WebMD, because like when I was trying to figure out how bad the case was, it was like, if you have lower back pain, that's a really, really bad sign. And I was like, oh my God, my lower back, it hurts. And then I realized like the day before I had like chopped a bunch of firewood for a couple hours, and I was like, all right, maybe I need to get off WebMD.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that one and move on. And yeah, they're great for just scaring the hell out of you. It could be nothing, or it could be death. So
right,
WebMD, we love you, but you take it too far.
There needs to be like a disclaimer there.
Yeah, for sure. So, you mentioned coming up with the name of your website, and I got to tell you, it's awesome, and I love it. So, please tell us about aballsysenseoftumor.com.
Yeah, so the name, like I said, was really important to me because I wanted to convey two things just within the name. I wanted to convey that it was going to be about testicular cancer, but I also wanted to convey that it was going to not be a downbeat, a woe is me type thing. So there were almost, and I made the decision to call it a ballsy sense of tumor. Like I was glued to calling it the testicular trials for a while, and then I don't even remember exactly how it popped into my head, but I had written, I think I had like Cancer Chronicles, like all sorts of different names, and then all of a sudden I was like, well, I'm going to be talking about it with humor. I was like, humor rhymes with tumor. And so, so on the website, it's kind of, I like to say that I have three real big goals with the website. And one is the original founding goal, if you will, was to create the comprehensive resource of what it's like to go through chemotherapy and cancer as a 20-something-year-old guy. Everything, like as I've said a couple times, from starting to living beyond cancer. And so that was the original reason why I started, but then kind of the catalyst that really has evolved into the big passion of mine is, and you've kind of alluded to this, how testicular cancer and men's health in general just is so under-discussed in society. Mm-hmm. And, men, it goes back to a lot of societal expectations that were created years and years ago. But one thing that I found is humor's a great way to engage men in talking about their health and make it more of a conversation than a lecture. So those are the two original goals. And the one that kind of has popped up, which is kind of how I got connected with you guys, was just talking about the impact of what it really means to be a cancer survivor, especially focusing on the mental health side of things, because so many people, say, oh, you must be so glad to have survived cancer and so on and so forth. And while I am, don't get me wrong, it also brings up a ton of other challenges that you don't expect to face at any point in your life, let alone before you're 30.
Yeah. I can imagine that's daunting. You're just starting out your life, really. You're getting started. You're starting to try and establish your path in life, the way you're going to go and everything. And, when you're in your 20s, you think you're indestructible. I know I did. I did some really stupid stuff when I was in my 20s. And, I thought, well, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm awesome. I feel great. I'm not going to ever have, my back fall apart or, anything like that. So when you're confronted with an issue like that, I can say in my 40s, I'm more confronted with the idea of mortality. Beck and I both have, losing parents and, other loved ones and, that type of thing. You get a bigger sense of mortality than you do in your 20s. But I imagine when you're faced with a cancer diagnosis and you're in your 20s, you get that sense of mortality really quick, and being able to properly absorb that and, not completely have it devastate you, that's the challenge, And it's funny because, like, I remember, a few years ago when, they were talking about universal health care, and I mean, they still talk about universal health care, but, the Affordable Care Act came out and everything, and, they were saying part of the problem is getting people in their 20s to want to go along with it because, again, in your 20s you feel like you're indestructible. But then being faced with something like what you went through, I think it just kind of further drives home, well, yeah, I'm in my 20s and I'm indestructible, but what if something like this does happen? I don't want to be, bankrupt and destitute in my 20s because I got sick. And
right.
having that kind of coverage just, it kind of bangs it home, I guess. I'm not really sure where I was going with that. So, well, I tell you what, we're about 25 minutes and we're going to go ahead and take our break. So you guys stay tuned, and
we will catch you on the other side of Wicked Game by Brandon and James.
Yep.
Que me linda está mi pejo, que palpita. Qué maldito es tu juego, me hace su cara así. Qué maldito está mi cuerpo, que te siente así. Qué maldita está mi mente, que te piense así. Qué maldita está mi pecho, que palpita por ti. No, I don't wanna fall in love. No, I don't wanna fall in love. Qué maldito es tu juego, me hace su cara así. De un abismo con dudas de un salto mortal.
Hey, welcome back to Voices for Change 2.0. I'm Joe. She's Rebecca.
I was just going to say, that didn't sound like English. And we got a little note from our producer that it's English and Spanish, so
yeah. So
a
it's,
little bilingual input for you.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, I'm Joe. She's Beck. She's cute. I'm married to her. I love her. It's good stuff.
I love you too.
Ah, thanks. And on the phone is the lovely and talented Justin Birckbichler. How's she going, eh?
Please follow me around and introduce me like that all the time. I could get used to that.
It's funny. She gets mad at me when I introduce the men that way, but, you know, men can be lovely and talented. I'm lovely and talented. Yeah, exactly.
And as are you.
So, oh, thank you. I appreciate it. That's wonderful, good sir.
Goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, I think she's being overwhelmed by the amount of testosterone in the room right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's okay. It's all right. So, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I advanced my jigs in the break, but we're not going to talk about what else might have happened.
Oh, good. Oh, good. You know, as long as you dance your jig, that's all that matters. You know.
Just in case you hear a meow in the background, we have a tiny cat that's locked in our room that's protesting about being locked in our room. So. Yeah,
but it's either be locked in the room or get your butt kicked by
another cat.
So that is that's part of the travails of living in the Lombardo household in 2020.
All right, so let's get back on track here with our lovely questions.
Yes.
So, Justin, tell us, we've talked about this in a few different ways, but, you know, could you get more specific into how the cancer diagnosis impacted your mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest thing was, and you guys have kind of brought this up before, is coming to terms with the fact that I wasn't invincible anymore, and the fact that not only was I not invincible, that it was my own body that was trying to prove that I was not invincible. And so it was really hard to come to terms with that. I was still pretty young and otherwise healthy. Like, I hadn't been to the doctor for a very long, much longer than, like, I didn't even go for my annual physical because I was, like I said, a typical millennial. Didn't think I needed to go. And so that was really hard. And then another big part of it was that everything, as I said, happened so quickly. I didn't really have much time to process what was happening because, you know, while I had 3 months off from work to focus on chemotherapy, I didn't really have a lot of time to process and think about it because I was, you know, in the infusion center, and then I'd get home and I'd go to sleep and wake up and try to choke down some food and then repeat that whole cycle again. And then I didn't, you know, I really so badly wanted to try to move on. after everything was done and get back to how my life was prior to going through cancer. And that's just not going to happen. Cancer is traumatic. It's life-changing. And so I'm like I said, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the impact of either the cancer or the chemo on the brain chemistry and so on and so forth. But I know I'm definitely not the same person that I was beforehand, for better or for worse in some aspects. But it's something that it really changed my outlook on, trying to make the best of every day, but also realize that, hey, if things had gone slightly different, you and I might not be having this conversation today.
Right. Yeah. I can't speak. You must be just confronted with a smorgasbord of emotions going through all that.
Definitely.
And it's scary, I mean, when you went through all that, how did it go with family and friends? Did you tell them, or did you kind of keep it close to the vest, or how did that go?
Like telling people that I had cancer?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, I mean, like,
yeah,
like.
No, I was pretty open with it. It was something that I just, wanted to put out there, and I would lean on support for various different people in different ways. Sometimes, I'd want to talk a little bit more seriously. Sometimes I just want to talk in a distraction type method. Or not talk about the cancer, just kind of try to maintain some semblance of normalcy as much as possible. But it was never. I did keep how my emotions was changing and my mental health was changing, for a very long time. Which, hindsight being 20, I wish I would not have done that. But you can't change the past and impact the present and improve the future. Look at that, I got all 3 tenses in one sentence. It's something that will be part of when I'm talking with either cancer patients or cancer survivors now, or just the general public, is, your body might be okay. But your mental health is going to take a hit, and you don't have to try to do it alone. There's a large community of cancer people. I always say cancer-y people, and then I realize, like, maybe not everybody likes that term. But it's people with cancer, I guess, would be the nicer way to say it, or people have been through cancer who are there and get it. And I think we just need to open up lines of dialogue to let everybody know that, your mental health is going to take a hit, whether it's a large one or a minor one. It's trauma, and just with any other form of trauma, there's going to be an impact on your mental health.
Yeah. The thing I wonder is, like when you were in treatment and everything, and you're around family or friends, did it ever get to be like the elephant in the room, or people were,
cool about it?
Yeah, cool about it.
Yeah, I don't really ever feel like it was the elephant in the room type deal, but I think that's also, I know for some people it definitely can be. In my case, just because I decided to talk about it so openly, I don't think it was ever the too much of an elephant in the room. The thing that I think sometimes was kind of a little awkward to talk about was making like longer term plans, because and I went back and forth on do I want to make plans and hope my prognosis was always pretty good from the beginning, but there's always that outside chance that it might not have turned out well. So it's hard. Like, do you want to set those plans to have a set goal, if you will, at the end, or do you want to kind of not make those plans and assume the worst? So sometimes I would make bigger plans for the future. Sometimes I wouldn't. It's kind of case-by-case basis, but never really felt like it was an elephant in the room or really too awkward of a situation in my experience. But as I said, results may vary.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And what advice do you usually give out if you're approached by someone who, has recently been diagnosed or is traveling down the same path? What advice do you generally have?
The biggest advice that I always give someone is find some sort of outlet for how you're feeling, whether it's talking with somebody or in my case it's writing. That's how I get a lot of my feelings and emotions out. But that it's going to be a roller coaster, and I always tell them that it's going to suck. There's just probably not like the greatest way to respond to an email when I'm getting that, but I don't want to sugarcoat it and say, oh, it's going to be awesome. I mean, it's going through cancer is hard. It's not a fun experience. But you will. It's all about how you decide you want to approach it, and how you come out the other side. It's everybody's situation's different, and I would say trust in your medical team, but don't be afraid to ask for a second opinion or ask for further clarification. But the biggest thing I always talk with people is to find some sort of outlet for it.
Yeah, that's a solid piece of advice.
Mm-hmm.
Having an outlet, regardless of what it is just in general, it's good for your mental health, cancer or no cancer. But yeah, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Good. We like that. So, changing things up a little bit, we were kind of excited to see this because we like talking to people that have done this particular thing that you've done, because it's interesting, and maybe someday we'll get to, I don't know, but what was your experience in doing a TED Talk?
Yeah, so that was a really cool experience. I've ever since I kind of started writing and sharing my story, I realized that I wanted to do a TED Talk to talk about men's health in general. So it's definitely a process of applying or trying to get your name out there. And then I had a great speaker coach, and who helped me. They assigned one to me, so she basically talked me through the process. And the biggest thing from the beginning was I write one way and I speak a very different way. They both have humor involved in them, but the written word in my case is different than the spoken word. And I said, oftentimes if I'm writing something for me to read, it sounds very stilted. Like it'll sound good when I'm reading it myself or when someone's reading it, but it doesn't sound as good spoken. So I said that's my biggest struggle is I don't know how I'm going to script this thing out if writing a traditional script wouldn't work for me. And she said, well, what if you flip it and you come up with bullet points and you record yourself and then you make a transcript of you talking through those bullet points. And that ended up being like a huge game changer. That's what I ended up doing for the whole talk. And then from there, it was easy to just move different pieces around in the thing.
That's a really, really cool piece of advice, because I've kind of wondered about that. I remember when we worked on Beck's book that, changing it to be more reader friendly, I guess, was a bit of an experience. But then doing the reverse and having it go from, what you're writing and having it being reader friendly to being, like a casual spoken kind of thing. Yeah, it translates differently. So that's really cool. Just the idea of having these bullet points, recording yourself, and going from there. Yeah, not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. So, doing some snooping around on a ballsysenseoftumor.com. What is Cup Check?
So Cup Check is what brought me to it was it combines like my love of outdoor backyard sports with testicular cancer awareness. It was a group of MLB players got together and they created this game where there's like PVC pipes with cups on the top, and you throw frisbees at them back and forth. And the cool thing about it is that they partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to help raise awareness and eventually funds for the nonprofit as well. So on a whim, I just reached out to the company to see, if they'd be willing to kind of talk about their motivation for why they chose testicular cancer as their cause to support. And I got to actually talk with the co-founder and CEO, and he said, he's like, well, it's kind of a no-brainer. We're a bunch of baseball players. The game called Cup Check, it just kind of fit really well. And I was like, and that's why I reached out.
Cool.
But
yeah,
that's very cool.
It's a pretty cool game. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit about it last night, and I'm not exactly what you'd call athletic.
Oh, same.
So,
same.
Yeah. So, seeing that, I'm like, you know what? I could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you can throw a frisbee, which like most people can throw it semi-accurately.
Well, if you can throw a wrench, you can throw a frisbee.
Exactly.
Where'd you get that from?
I'm happy that Justin got my reference at least.
Okay.
Because my wife did not.
Yeah. She just
So,
needs to learn to dodge, dip, dive, duck, and dodge.
Yeah, that's right. Dodgeball, honey.
Oh, God, I haven't seen that movie since it came out.
Yes, I know. So, anyway, so what are your goals for 2020, Justin?
So it's interesting because normally every year I try to set big goals. I normally try to set either a personal goal or a advocacy goal, and we're about a month and a half into it, and I haven't really set an advocacy goal yet. I haven't decided what I want to do. But I think in personal goal, I just want to, and this sounds kind of counterintuitive sometimes to some people, is say no to more things. Just because, I don't want to have to try to do all things to all people if it's not something that brings me happiness or brings me joy. And that can sound like a very selfish worldview, and I guess to an extent it kind of is. But I just want to make sure that I am, leaving an impact on the world, but an impact that also makes it's fulfilling for myself as well.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, you want it to be meaningful,
And there's some things that, people want you to be involved with, or, someone may come to you with a certain project or something like that, and you don't want to say no, but in your heart that it's not going to make you feel great participating in it. I've had that experience where, for instance, when I was training for Crisis Text Line, I really, really, really wanted to be a part of that, and I really enjoyed most of the training. But it came to the certain point where they were having you practice, and they were having you team up with someone who was already doing it, and then be online when the calls were coming in. And I got to where, because I'm an empath, I got to where the struggles of the people that were calling in was impacting me in a negative way. and I got very depressed, and it occurred to me, look, no matter how bad you want to do this, it's just not something for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to keep reeling myself back in, because I'll come to these certain types of, events or what have you, and I'll think, oh, this would be great, I want to do this, and then I got to reel myself back in, because I have to also be realistic about what I get involved in. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that too. It's sometimes, people will reach out and either ask, a patient or something will reach out for advice, and I have to kind of always tell myself, like, I can't be that person's lifeline for every single situation. And I'm normally more than happy to provide advice or answer some questions, but if it goes into so on and so forth, like I oftentimes, there's been a couple cases where I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable answering that question, or I can't help you with that. You need to talk to your doctor about that.
Yeah.
And same things as, sometimes people will say, oh, I get emails sometimes that will just talk about, like, do you want to work on this project? And sometimes, in the past I had a problem where I'd say yes to everything. And then that, but, as you take on more and more responsibilities, there's not more and more time in the day. And so I rather, do a couple of things really well than do a whole bunch of things just kind of okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I get that. And one of the things that we've talked about many, many times on our show is self-care. And having the ability to say no to a situation, that's self-care too. Just being able to assess a situation, see how you're feeling, see if your heart is truly in it, or, if it's going to have a negative impact on you, different things like that, being able to take a step back and look at the whole situation and go, you know what, maybe I better pass on this one, and being able to be okay with that. That's a big thing with self-care as well, is, it's okay to say no to situations. It's okay to, extricate yourself from something. Yeah, that's a pretty good word.
I agree. And I think a big thing coming to terms with that is you don't always necessarily need to give an explanation of why you're saying no. I think sometimes, we'll, I was reading, I forget a book, but it was talking about how to learn to say no better. And so oftentimes when you say no to something, you feel like you have to give this long-winded explanation of why you can't do something. And oftentimes if you just say, and I've been trying to do this more and more recently, is say, no, I can't do that. And, maybe you have a logistical reason why you can't do that, or maybe you can't do that just because you don't want to do that, and that's also okay. I think, we end up burning ourselves out, and then getting other people upset if we say no or say yes too much, and feel like we always have to justify why we're saying no.
Yeah, you spread yourself too thin. It's funny. There's a local morning show here in Detroit, and one of the things they'll talk about is a situation will come up. Say a panhandler comes up asking for money, and one of the people on the show started saying, "Oh no, I don't do that. God bless." And it just catches a person off guard because they don't give any further explanation. Just, "Oh, I don't do that. God bless," and they walk away, and people are like, "Oh, okay," And they started talking about all these other different situations where you could use, "No, I don't do that. God bless," and it's funny, but it works.
Mm.
So, telling anybody God bless just kind of shuts the whole thing down, I guess.
Yeah.
So, So what message do you have for other men that are worried about the backlash of coming forward?
I would say that the biggest thing that I've learned is a lot of reasons why men try to keep their health concerns, whether it's mental or physical health, to themselves, is because they're afraid of being seen as weak or not strong or the provider, the protector. But I think really by opening up and sharing health concerns and challenges, that's really how you're going to do the best job that you can protecting others, is by letting everybody know that, hey, everybody's going to have health problems at some point. It's an irrefutable fact. But by talking openly about it, we can get the treatment, whether it's, again, for physical or mental health, sooner than later. And hopefully, early detection in any sense is always easier to treat than letting it go on. So it's not turning in your man card to talk about your health or admit that you're having problems. If anything, it makes you stronger. Like I've heard time and time again, and it's going to sound kind of braggadocious, but I've heard from people who say things to the effect of, like, you're so brave for coming forward, or you're so strong for doing that. And while I don't necessarily agree, it just felt like a natural thing to do. I think it's something that we should just see as a natural thing to do, and that where it's more harmful to keep issues to ourselves. So definitely, if you have any sort of concern, whether it's a stub toe to you have something growing out of your shoulder that shouldn't be there, it shouldn't matter. I was a classic guy who I'd go to work and I was like hacking up a lung and I'd be like, I'm fine, I don't need to go to the doctor. But now, I might sneeze once, and I'm like, oh, I need to go to the doctor right now to just go get antibiotics so that I can get back to being my best self right away.
Yeah, you got to look out for that shoulder guy. But anybody got that reference? Good for you. As I lose my voice.
A Men in Black 2 reference?
No, that is a Family Guy reference. So, how about some love for shoulder guy? But sorry, we just got a funny message from Scott. But it used to be that you had to be a guy and have this stiff upper lip and not talk about what you're going through or emotions and stuff. And what I think people are finally starting to realize is, stepping up and talking about what you're going through and putting it out there is you're showing yourself to be a leader and an example that it's okay to go through this stuff and you don't have to do it alone. And that's a big thing we stress on our show is no matter what you're going through, you're not alone. Even when you're at your darkest point and you feel like you're totally alone, you're really not. Sometimes it's going to take your impetus to reach out to others, and sometimes the others will see it and reach out to you. But either way, don't slap that help away. So, we are getting down to the.
I think we might actually be going over a little bit.
Yeah, but before we go, we wanted to get your social media out there, Justin. So, how can people reach you if they want to contact you and say something like "How's your balls" or whatever?
Well, hopefully nobody contacts and says "How's your balls" because I only have one. So yeah,
yeah, there's that.
But I would say the easiest way really to get in contact is just go to my website, ballsystemsandhumor.com. From there, it has my email address. It has all my social media, pretty much anywhere on social media. I'm a ballsy sense of humor, other than Twitter because that's too many letters for a Twitter handle. So that's just abshottc. So ruins the branding there. But yeah, and also my last name, if you just Google Justin Birckbichler, there's two of us in the entire world. So if you email one of the two of us, hopefully you get the right one. The other one, as far as I know, still has two testicles, so he might be a little confused if you say, "How's your ball?"
Indeed. I think that's an excellent spot for us to end the show on.
Absolutely.
So, So Justin, you hang on the line here, and we're What's
the matter?
Scott's screwing with us. Anyway, we're gonna listen to "Dear My Future Self" by David Hernandez, and we'll see you guys next week, and we'll talk to you in a minute, Justin.
Bye.
Dear my future self. It's hard to see when you're caught in the thick of it. It's hard to feel when you're trying just to forget. Looking in the rearview mirror, it's impossible to see ahead. Trying your best just to see things clearer and get out of your head. Yeah, I've been running in circles. It's a journey, it's a struggle, but I know when the world breaks, you stand tall. When you feel pain, you fight it off. When they go low, you go high, 'cause you're gonna rewrite the storyline. Those that don't believe in you, farewell. They try to keep you down, but time will tell. Take a leap of faith, you won't fail. Have the right to work, dear my future self. Dear my future self. It's hard to hear through the voices doubting you. It's hard to taste success when there's nothing new. Staring at yourself in the mirror. What's it now that you want to change? Feel like you're never gonna see things clearer. It's time to turn the page. Yeah, I've been running, I've been hiding with no peace. It's a struggle to find me. When the world breaks, you stand tall. When you feel pain, you fight it off. When they go low, you go high, 'cause you're gonna rewrite the storyline. Those that don't believe in you, farewell. They try to keep you down, but time will tell. Take a leap of faith, you won't fail. Have the right to work, dear my future self. You gotta keep up, you gotta be strong. Don't lose the faith, you gotta keep on. You gotta keep up, you gotta be strong. Be strong, be strong. You gotta keep up, you gotta be strong. Don't lose the faith, you gotta keep on. You gotta keep up, you gotta be strong. Be strong. When the world breaks, you stand tall. When you feel pain, you fight it off. When they go low, you go high. You're gonna rewrite the storyline. Those that don't believe in you, farewell.